I'll be here in Milwaukee for the next 5 years.
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin.
He's going to have that 5-year, multi-million-dollar contract of $228 million to not go anywhere.
He wants his legacy to be built on his back, not going somewhere else.
Yep, we get it. No ifs, ands about it.
It's my home, it's my city.
He loves Milwaukee. He is Milwaukee.
Giannis has always felt this kinship, this sense of loyalty to the people in Milwaukee.
The show goes on, and let's get it.
Good Wednesday morning. You know, in sports, and especially sports talk radio, fellas, we always live in the world where the latest is the greatest. It's Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin presented by Progressive Insurance, but maybe we back it up for 1 second. Undoubtedly, the greatest day in Milwaukee Bucks history, April 30th, 1971, the day they won their first and only NBA championship. But lo and behold, fellas, the second greatest day, fast forward about 50 years, to yesterday, when Giannis signed the biggest deal by value in the history of the National Basketball Association. They beat the Monday deadline to get the deal. Now the question, fellas, is can they beat a newly resurgent East and finally get Giannis over the top? Great to have you here this morning. We'll have the NFL tomorrow. We got a couple NFL games on Saturday, college football playoff on Sunday. So much football to get into, and we will throughout the course of the next 4 hours. Indeed. Good to see Keyshawn. Good to see Jay, and hear you both as well. Jay, let's start with you. Your thoughts on this watershed deal for the Milwaukee Bucks and the NBA's back-to-back reigning MVP.
It's a huge deal, Zubin, for both Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks. They secured one of the biggest assets in the NBA, back-to-back MVP player. It makes him the highest paid player in North America team sports. He's going to average, Keyshawn, wait for this, an average of $45 million per year. 5 years, $228 million. It increases the franchise value drastically. I think for Mark Lasry and Wes Edens, the owners of the team, they are ecstatic. John Horst, who was an executive of the year a couple of years ago, I think it puts him in the upper echelon because now you can recruit. You know that Giannis is going to be around for the next couple of years. But I will say this, just because players sign 5-year deals, right, it secures the bag for the player. I don't know if it necessarily secures the fact that the player will be there for all 5 years for the team, Zubin. And I think that's important to say. We've seen players force their way out of situations, i.e. Anthony Davis in New Orleans, James Harden right now with the remaining 2 years left on his contract with the Houston Rockets trying to get out. So I think the real question is, what is the window of opportunity for the Bucks to get to the NBA Finals? Getting to the NBA Finals, I think, is pivotal for this franchise, considering that Giannis has only been to the conference finals once, and that's when they lost to the Raptors 2 years ago.
Well, look, here's what I would say. You said, wait for this, listen to those numbers, Jay. I didn't need to listen to those numbers, right? Because this claim is simple when you talk about $228 million over a 5-year period. One of the things that you said that kind of caught my attention there was they'll be able to recruit. The NBA is interesting because certain guys you'll be able to recruit to areas like a Milwaukee small market teams. I think a lot of the things that they're going to have to do, even with a Giannis, is via the trades, draft guys. Make sure you develop those type of players into the type of players that you can get that want to be around Giannis long term and make a push to get to the Eastern Conference Final, to get to the NBA championship, because otherwise to go out there and think you're going to get one of these top 10 players to move from a big city to a small market to play with Giannis, they got a short window to be able to do that. And much like you said, he signs a 5-year deal. Yeah, it's not really a 5-year deal. It's I'm going to secure the bag and I'm going to wait and see what we do over the next couple years before I really lose my confidence in the organization and the city, so to speak. And now I got to look to move to go to another place so that I can wind up trying to win a championship. You don't pass on $228 million when you're 27 years old. You just don't do that in this world, this climate, where anything could happen. You could walk outside and it could be a rock. You could slip and fall. Now it's a whole nother conversation that you will be having with the team. So smart move by him. Smart move by the Milwaukee Bucks to figure out how to get it done. Now let's see if you can go out there and create something with magical while you have Giannis under contract.
And
Now,
fellas,
I will say this, Kevin, to their credit, Zubin, that they did bring on Drew Holiday. They let go of Eric Bledsoe and George Hill in a deal to get Drew Holiday to the Milwaukee Bucks. They were able to sign a couple of complementary pieces, even though I think they let go of a lot of their depth on their bench. So the question is with, look, if we're saying that Giannis is like a skinny Shaq, right? He shot 58% from the free throw line in the postseason. So scouting report is out on Giannis on how to beat him in the playoffs. You form a wall. We saw Miami do that last year in the second round of the playoffs, right? That's what Eric Spoelstra and Jimmy Butler, they were talking trash about how they understand how to beat him. So if he's a skinny version of Shaq, who is his Kobe Bryant? Who is his Dwayne Wade? Is that Chris Middleton, Key? Is he going to be the guy that rises or elevates his game to be that closer down the stretch? Is that going to be Drew Holiday? I think we're going to need to see who becomes the clutch closer in game situations other than Giannis, considering that he struggles at the free throw line and he doesn't really shoot the mid-range, and teams know how to guard him, especially in the Eastern Conference where you got Kevin Durant and Kyrie playing on the same team. And I think they are still the favorite right now, even though Milwaukee will be probably 1 or 2. They'll be kind of going back and forth between that ranking in the Eastern Conference.
Chris Middleton did show up to a degree in the playoffs. I got to, you got when Giannis was missing in action, he did kind of step up. I don't know if you could compare him to some of those names, the Dwayne Wades, the Kobe Bryants, the Penny Hardaways when Shaq was young and down in Orlando. I don't know that you could compare him to that. I think having Drew Holiday there certainly helps the situation and lifts some of the pressure off of Chris Middleton. But even with that being said, when you go up and down the coast, you go all the way from Boston, you come down to Philadelphia, and in between you have the Brooklyn Nets. That's a lot. And we haven't even gotten all the way to Miami. And the way that they feel, I know a lot of people feel like, okay, Miami kind of backdoored into a championship run, but they still got there. And believe me, they feel like they can get back there again. So it's just a matter of what will Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton bring to the table.
And fellas, we should quickly mention, besides the money, what was the rationale for Giannis staying in Milwaukee? Well, he certainly feels indebted. He grew up in Greece, but as Woj explains, now he's a Milwaukee man.
This was a decision he had to think long and hard about, and ultimately got back to the fact that I think ultimately for him, he feels like he grew up in Milwaukee, and he has a great affinity, a love for that organization, and believes that he can win there, and I think and win in an organization that, in a community he feels very strongly about. The idea of going elsewhere and being part of a super team ultimately didn't appeal to him much as it did continuing to try to win in Milwaukee.
How does this tie into James Harden? Let me give you one quick stat, fellas, and then Key, I got a question for you because I know Jay could watch two guys hoop in a driveway and break it down. He'll watch anybody play basketball and love it. So I want to ask you one question, Key, from a fan perspective. At first on Harden, remember a couple weeks ago, James Harden turned down an opportunity to be the NBA's first $50 million a year player. With this contract, Key, I know, fellas, right? Born at the wrong time. Great athletic skill, but born in the wrong era. For my
I'm happy,
partners.
though. I'm good.
No, I think you did all right. I would say, Key, you don't need my recommendation, but I think you did all right. Think about this, though. Giannis would cross the $50 million mark in this new deal. He would cross the $50 million mark in 2025, 2026, when he's 30. Harden could have done it like 3 weeks ago. So just think about how much money Harden was turning down in light of this new deal. Key, here's my point. And I love Giannis, ethnic, diverse, super likable, super talented, rangy, unicorn-like. But Key, he's 25. He's won back-to-back MVPs, Defensive Player of the Year, a leader on one of the NBA's best teams. But he just doesn't. Does this sound crazy, Key? He's not like LeBron. He doesn't get me to the TV. If Giannis is on TNT Tuesday or Thursday, ESPN Wednesday or Friday, I'm in for LeBron. I'm in for Harden. I'm in for Durant. I'm in for the return to Steph. I love Giannis. This is not a personal indictment, Key. He does not get me to the television. You're a two-time MVP in the prime of your career. You're a global superstar. I still can't get there.
Well, you can't get there. One of the reasons you can't get there is because, number one, he's a big. And when you become a big and you're not fun like a Shaq or something like that, it's hard. All those guys that you named are three, outside Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant can play anywhere on the floor, obviously. But all those guys you name are threes, twos, and ones. They're not a 4 or 5 really for the most part. And when you look at bigs outside of Shaq can get you to the TV set because he's fun, he's likable. He's a guy that was in L.A. He was in Orlando with Penny Hardaway. So it was kind of like some, it was a commercial appeal to it. Again, I hate to say it, it's Milwaukee. And when you're in a small market, it's very difficult for people to gravitate towards small markets with big-time players that are not small guys. I mean, that's just the reality of it.
Fair enough. We're asking this morning on the Dr. Pepper Twitter feed, quickly switching over to the NFL, who needs the number 1 seed more in the NFC? The Saints, who had it for a really long time and saw their 9-game winning streak just come to an end, or the ascendant new number 1 in the NFC, the Packers. Saints, Packers, who needs the number 1 seed more? And remember, no fans, but do you want to go to Chile, Green Bay, or Orchard Park? Keep that in mind if you're talking AFC, NFC. Be a part of the Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin Nation on the Dr. Pepper Twitter feed. ESPN Nation presented by Dr. Pepper. It's official. College football is back. So is your favorite Dr. Pepper-loving college football town, Fansville. Head to a store near you to treat your inner college football fan to an ice-cold 20-ounce Dr. Pepper today. On the way, the Giants are trying to win the division after a miserable start, but their head coach is non-committal on maybe the most important decision of their week. We'll get to that after Jay has this, the resident Giant fan from Pennzoil.
Here's a fact for you. Not all synthetic motor oils are created the same. Crude oil is like a bag of mismatched